Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okello, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.
Grand Rising. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Simon Javan Okello. I am the host of the African Father in America podcast, and we are live and direct. We are live on YouTube, and we are also live on Clubhouse. And I have a special guest with me today. Her name is Chioma Shiri. Chioma is an incredible poet. Based here in the US. She's going to share with us a little more about exactly where she is, here in the US. And she's going to also share with us a little more about herself. If you watch or tune in to the Daily African Proverbs or the African Father in America podcast, it's the same thing, by the way. You'll find that every Wednesday, we learn so much from Chioma, and today is no exception. And we are always joined by Simply E, who has also joined us on the stage. And in a moment we are going to be joined by other people. But I want you to take a minute, if you're on Clubhouse, ping in 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 people to join us for today's episode of the African Father in America podcast. This is episode 217, no joke. 217. So today's proverb from Madagascar says that, like the chameleon, one eye on the future, one eye on the past. Like the chameleon, one eye on the future and one eye on the past. If you're listening or watching, what is it that this proverb brings to your mind or to your heart? I took some time with my team and we looked at this proverb thoroughly, and we came up with 3 takeaways that I want to share with you right now before we dive into the body of our conversation with my incredible guest today. Number 1 takeaway from today's episode is that you should own up to your mistakes and learn from them. Number 2, don't be afraid to ask for help. Number 3, don't dwell on your mistakes. Move on and learn from them. A lot of people make mistakes, but a lot of people also think that they are so smart that they can never make any mistakes, In fact, the majority, especially those of us who are highly educated, we always think that education shields us from, screwing up. But when you're not willing to fail fast, in fact, we learned a lot about yesterday's guest who joined us for the Daily African Proverbs, who through thick and thin, he made it from one of the worst slums in the world and is now the CEO of a telecom company here in the US, something that he founded. And so today we are going to learn, a little more. But first, the way that the show is going to look like is we are going to learn from Chioma what her own interpretation of today's proverb is. And then from there, we are going to listen to a poem that Chioma has created for us, inspired by this proverb. And then after that, we are going to talk about Juneteenth. This is the week of Juneteenth, and we want to learn what it means to Chioma. And then from there, we are going to talk about how people can stay connected to Chioma, how we can continue supporting the work that Chioma is doing. But before I bring the microphone to you, Chioma, I want to take it to Simply E, who is also an amazing poet that joins us here every Wednesday to help make this incredible experience possible. Simply E, how are you doing? And just share with the room how they can be engaged with the conversation today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simon. I'm happy to be here, and I know that everybody that's made it to this space so far is happy to be in here, especially following Father's Day, and we're an African Father in America. So happy Father's Day, Simon. Belated Father's Day. And happy Father's Day to all the fathers who are in this space. This is a great space, especially here in the African Proverbs. I know, especially with Father's Day just being just leaving us, um, that it's a good thing when you can pour into fathers, um, and you can pour into people all together. And this is a great space for that. To get the wisdom that we're getting in this space is very unique. If you're joining from YouTube, of course, you can see Simon's face and Shioma's perhaps this morning as well in that space. Just know that if you want to come up on stage, if you want to have a voice, you can definitely come in on the Clubhouse side. Or if you just wanted to see things from a different angle, and you're in one space, you can go in the other space to see how that works. I think it's really awesome that wherever you're comfortable, you can join in that space. And there's also tweets. And in the morning on the Instagram side, if you just want to get a head start and be able to see what's coming, early in the morning, the post is there as well. And you can give your input there. And so I think it's awesome that you can give input in this space wherever you're comfortable giving input. Also, I think it's important to bring your friends along. So if you've got folks that you know would enjoy the space and can enhance the space, you want to also ping them in the space as well, or just let them know. Um, good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to the African Father in America. Welcome to the Daily African Proverb.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Simply, your voice is just so powerful and beautiful. One day we should have you narrate, a movie or something like that. But I just appreciate you for being here. Chioma, I would love for you to lead us now in sharing your own interpretation of this incredible Madagascar proverb. It says, like the chameleon, one eye on the future and one eye on the past. Share with us your perspectives.
Thank you, Simon. And thank you, Simply E, for just setting the space like that. And I'm just grateful to be here. And thank you to everyone who's in the room. And I see people on YouTube, Waitzel, Sherelle, Brother, Quentin. So just hi to all of you all. Thank y'all for being here. Oh, I see you too, Kay. So when I first saw this proverb, like the chameleon, one eye on the future, one eye on the past, what came up to me was the importance of knowing the past, but also the importance of being able to dream and imagine a future. So like looking at the past, I really do believe if we don't like really look at the past and look at it in truth. I recently watched this documentary called Who We Are, and it was talking about like the history of America, and it was like all this sort of like whitewashing and rewashing of history, and that to me is not looking at the past in truth. So when we look at the past in truth, both like the past that we lived in and the past that we didn't live in, but like our ancestors before us, when we look at those in truth, there's so much we can learn from. And when we look at those in truth, we're better able to like create a better future. We can either take tools from it or leave some things behind because there's some things we do not want to repeat. So that's something that came up to mind. And then I also just have to say, like, this is really a shout out to your team, Simon, whoever like picked this proverb at this time with like the passing of like Juneteenth. It really made me think of like the ancestors. They were chameleons. Like I can't imagine like what would happen if, the Black Americans here, and honestly all over the all over the globe who are like freedom fighters, like just did not imagine a future, right? Like imagine if Harriet Tubman didn't see herself and her people as free. Imagine if Dr. King didn't like have a dream, you know what I mean? Like where would we be? Like would there even be a future? Like what would that future like look like? So I really do think they were chameleons. And then they also like there's so many things that they held on in terms of like the past, like to even get through like the hard times and the hardships. So I feel like a lot of the things that we see is a fruit of like our ancestors being like chameleons. So those are the things that came up to for me.
I love that. I love that. And when we think about our ancestors, I think about my mother, and I agree that she was a chameleon. She was so creative, and she worked in silence. And before you knew it, she hit this milestone that everybody would talk about for years. But she was also one of the people who are always belittled and down. Many people, especially men, sat on her head. But she was just a giant and a true chameleon. Now, Chioma, I would love for you to, share with us the poem that was also, inspired by this proverb. And before you do that, though, I want to. I'm noticing that my YouTube channel is actually growing, and it's because of this show that we are hosting here. So I want you. If you haven't subscribed, the link is at the top of the room. You can see Chioma and myself there right now. We are live streaming, and we live stream from Monday to Friday, primarily to make our ancestors proud. We do this work. This is hard work, but we are doing it because our efforts are being energized by our ancestors. If it wasn't for my mother personally, I would have not been doing this show. The very, very first time I hosted this show was around the time that we were mourning my mother's passing not too long ago. So this has been a very safe space for me personally, and a healing space for me. And I hope that we continue spreading this idea that ancestral wisdom should be at the forefront of our conversations, and how we solve our problems, how we communicate with each other, because why not? Why not? So Chioma, take it away.
All right. So this piece I actually wrote this morning, and it's always interesting because I feel like every time I'm writing, I'm like working through it, and even when I read it back, I'm like, But I'm gonna share with y'all what I have. Alrighty. So just the proverb again is like the chameleon, one eye on the future, one eye on the past. All right, the poem. Close my eyes on the past, lost my future. Close my eyes on the future, lost my present, stuck in the past. Open my eyes to the past, saw a future. Open my eyes to the future, change my present. Be wary of attempts to rewrite history, of things and people who tell you you have none. Be wary of the things that make you forget, that try to tell you the past and present aren't interwoven, like the fabric of that flag you wave or that quilt your grandmother made. Be wary of attempts to wipe out future, of the things and people who tell you you have none. Be wary of the things that stop you from imagining, that try to tell you that all you see is all there is, like the news or the schools or your street or those textbooks. Be wary of attempts to close your eyes. Be like the chameleon, one eye on the future, one eye on the past. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. I want to create space for Simply E to speak a little bit about this beautiful piece.
I love the way you, when you mentioned there was a line in there, and of course, I am not quoting you directly, but there was a line in there where you said, and it was probably at the beginning, where you said you close your eye to your future and you lost your past, or you close your eye to your past and your
Close
present.
my eyes to the past, lost my future.
Oh my goodness. And then what was the following line?
Close my eyes on the future, lost my present, stuck in the past.
Wow. And I think that that's so important to know, right? That the combination of the two is what's so important. And I think you really you nailed it with that. I think that that was beautifully written and expressed. And not only that, but I think that's a very deep sentiment. Um, to know how important it is to have both of those things going on at the same time. Thank you for that, Shioma.
Thank you, Simply E. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you again, Simply E. I always love getting your perspectives because, I have a dream that one day I'll be a poet, but you guys know what it takes to.
I mean, you got it. You dream it, imagine it. Like, that's your future, okay?
No. I don't know. I can't do it all, but there's some dreams that you just need to live in dreamland and also see other people manifest your dreams. So I'll live my dream through you and Simply E, who are so wonderful at this. Yeah. Anyhow, if you're just joining us, my name is Simon Okello, and I'm the host of the African Father in America podcast. And we are having a beautiful conversation. We are live streaming on YouTube. If you are there, make sure you're subscribing to the channel. If you are on Clubhouse, make sure you're following the club, African Father in America club, and also ping in 3 to 5 people to join us for this conversation. My special guest is an amazing writer, creator, and I think a cultural disruptor too. I remember a couple of weeks ago, you organized this really, really beautiful writing workshop online that was really beneficial to me. It was quite a long time before I intentionally sat with a group of Black people and we wrote together, and we were prompted by someone like you. And I just encourage you to do more of those, by the way, Chioma. Keep doing those.
Wow. Thank you, Simon.
Yeah. So now take us back a little bit to a moment in your childhood where you remember a story that this poem inspires. And if that is connected to Juneteenth, well and good. If it is not connected to Juneteenth and you don't have anything that you want to share there, then you can go straight away to what Juneteenth means to you.
Okay, let me just go straight into what Juneteenth means to me, because I was more thinking of that and prepared for that. So yeah, that question. What does Juneteenth mean to me? For me, I think Juneteenth is both like sombering but also like celebratory. For me, it's like a reminder of how much was done to get us here, how much the ancestors did to get us here. But it's also a reminder that there's still work to be done. So it's sort of that like two sides, that so much has been done. So I'm in so much gratitude and like I celebrate. But there's also so much that still needs to be done. And I really feel like, the way I celebrated Juneteenth this year was really special in like the way that it recognized all those things. So my Juneteenth this year, shout out to Urban Adebex. They had like this Juneteenth celebration solstice thing. So I was in a space with a lot of brown, indigenous, and some Black folk as well, and we sort of like did this walk where we went by like this abolitionist house that was like a stop on like the Underground Railroad, and then we also walked by the river and we like let go of some things. We spoke some things that we wanted to receive. We did some chanting, some praying, some singing, and it was really like beautiful. I don't even think I realized the weight of it until like afterwards, but like it felt like a calling of like a calling and a remembering of like all like the ancestors and like the enslaved, like what happened here in this country. It was like a remembering of that. It was an honoring, but it was also like a call to like also remember like the present, like to look at the community that I am in currently. Like the space was just really beautiful, like it was intergenerational too, which was also amazing. But also like a call to like there's more work to be done. So it was just like it was beautiful, and that to me is, I feel like, what Juneteenth reminds me of and should be and feel like. sort of like a remembering, but a celebration and sort of like an encouraging. Like I got a lot of power from that event. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Simon.
It did. Yeah, it did. It did. I wonder if Dr. Ayoka wants to join us on stage. I would love to get your perspectives on Juneteenth as well. But, there's just so much. There's so much. First, at least the US made Juneteenth a national holiday. And this year was the first time that, people were given an opportunity to celebrate Juneteenth in the way, that is meaningful, right?
It says a lot that was like literally written into law like last year. That's like a reminder of like, oh, there's still work to be done, like, but I'm grateful that the day exists now, but like it took a long time for that to be a thing.
Yeah, so there's something that happened yesterday too that is connected to what the work Dr. Ayoka is doing, Juneteenth, and also the colonization of Africa and how brutal that was. Yesterday, the Belgian government returned the gold-coated tooth of Patrice Lumumba to his family, and his daughter had written a really powerful letter to the Belgian king. What the Belgians did in the Congo was horrible. And, they were involved with the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, who was the first Congolese president, who was really, an incredible leader. But imagine they're not only assassinating someone who brought a lot of hope to a country and to a continent, but they also, they burned his body in acid, and every part of his body was consumed besides this golden coated tooth that was given back to his family, several decades after, after he was killed, So for me, the Juneteenth, what happened in Belgium, the idea of reparation, the returning of stolen artifacts from the continent, these are just insults to Africans and black people globally. The amount of abuse and the amount of trauma, if there is no, truth and reconciliation and also reparations. I have a friend of mine who is working on a really incredible project here in Seattle, where he's working with Seattle Foundation, and they're doing this project called Repair, and they're intentionally funding black-led organizations as part of the reparation process. And so I know that we normally have an order of how we do things in this room, but I just want to create space for Dr. Ayoka Wiles, because this is an area that she is an expert in, and then we will begin listening to everyone on the stage, so that we can hear your different perspectives in regards to the proverb that we are discussing today. Again, welcome, Dr. Ayoka. I'll give you the mic.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you for that. I don't consider myself an expert, but I am very heavy in the Restitution Movement as a funder and as a researcher. But what I will just say in summary about restitution as well as Juneteenth is that Juneteenth, I saw an article and it said that, to say, and I think maybe it was somewhere, I don't know, but anyway, to say celebrating, like happy Juneteenth, it's almost like, oxymoron. It's one thing that I don't think that we should necessarily celebrate Juneteenth, but we should pause, and we should pause to be able to think critically and to reflect. I think it's a moment of reflection, because what happened with Juneteenth is that, in September of 1862, President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, but it wasn't until June 19th, 1865, almost 2.5 years later, that there was an actual issue to actually free people still in bondage, particularly in Texas. So there were a number, the proclamation was signed, but it wasn't until, two almost not, and it's like almost, that's like 900 days. So 2.5 years until people were actually free, and even more so. And we're in 2022 and people are still in bondage in a number of ways. We have the prison industrial system. We have a lot of uh, systems in the U.S. and around the world where people are still not liberated and in the way that people of African descent should be. So we pause because we need to consider so much more work. I always say we pause and we reflect and we forge ahead because there's so much more work to do, and we still have to continue because we have a lot of people in this country, in the United States and outside of the United States, in the world globally, who are not interested and are not vested in certain groups of people being free. On the issue on restitution, I think it's so a moment of like Juneteenth gives us pause and reflection, and it also gives us the notion that restitution is also in that the restoring and the um, repatriation of our African cultural heritage, because what's at stake is not only just the artifacts and the human remains, so that we can restore dignity to African people around the world and the diaspora, right? Because that's what that work is about. It's not, once you return someone's family's human remains, it's thousands of artifacts and thousands of human remains that are in museums, that are in institutions and universities, and that is not in alignment with traditional African culture, that someone's family's body should be on display. That is a disgrace. That is not dignified. We should be honoring our ancestors properly, and we have to restore all of these things in conjunction, all of these movements towards uh, a just world. And so that's a lot, I think, of what a lot of the work is about. And a huge portion of it is that these countries in Africa have to make claims for these artifacts and human remains, and how they make claims is a whole legal issue. But legislation has to be put in place the same way it was put in place for those were um, uh, who were a part of the Holocaust. There are laws and legislation that says that all those things that were stolen from Jewish people during the Holocaust have to be returned, and they have to receive uh, um, reparations in the form of financial or the form of the actual item. So there's history there. There's a model there. There's not that we don't know what to do, but we have to make claims, and we have to demand that these be done by those countries that hold those items. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chioma, I want to give you a moment to maybe just speak to what you heard Dr. Ayoka say, and then we'll go straight away to Simply E, and then listen to everyone on the stage. Dr. Ayoka, thank you again for being here.
No, I just want to say thank you. Because even when you said Juneteenth isn't like just celebration, it's really a cause for us to like actually reflect on what happened. That's so like I felt that so much in my spirit, because I was like, I was thinking today, and I was like, I don't want to necessarily judge how people are doing like Juneteenth, today, but like there's so much like commodification, there's so much, I think you're missing what this day is. So when you said that really like hit me. And also when you said like to have like our ancestors like bodies or parts of us like in museums, like even just returning that isn't enough. And like there's so much work, and there's so much healing, and there's so much stuff that has to be done. Like it just Thank you for sharing what you shared, but I'm just like, oh my goodness, it's so real. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again, Chioma. Simply E, I want you to now take the floor, maybe just reset quickly and also share your interpretation as well as where you are joining us from. Thank you.
Thank you. So I am joining today from Tennessee, USA. And this is oh wow, what a space that's being created here. So we're an African Father in America. If this is your first time being in this space, you'll definitely want to make sure that you're staying in touch. So if you're listening in on the YouTube side, you definitely want to make sure that you're subscribing. If you're in Clubhouse today, you want to definitely join the club for sure, to make sure that you're getting these proverbs on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. The African proverb today, oh my goodness, it's so apropos when we talk about Juneteenth, to have this proverb land on our laps as well, because they're mirroring each other. With Juneteenth, we're looking back, we're reflecting back on what has happened, and how we can sort of make sure that things of that nature, with making sure that people are aware and free, and making sure that people have liberty and that they're aware of their liberties and civil liberties and rights and things like that. That's something that we move forward in doing. But I don't think we would know how important that was if we didn't reflect back to the fact that something has happened in the past where people were not aware that they were free. And so this proverb landing on our laps today, with Juneteenth just passing, I think is so it's just, the timing is impeccable. I think it's important for us to know, before we build what we're getting into. One of the biggest mistakes I've ever made is that I was working on a project before, and I did not take into the account the people who were in that space and what they had already learned and what their challenges were on a daily basis. So everything that I was building on paper looked great. And as we were proposing and were writing things, we thought it was awesome. But the biggest mistake we made was that we did not get the input from the people who were actually touching the things, who were being impacted on a daily basis, and who had the in-depth knowledge, the hands-on experience to let us know, hey, this does look cool on paper, but guess what? It's going to fail. And that's why it's so important to have one eye in the future and one in the past. Because if you're trying to reinvent the wheel every time you bump into something, you're losing what has already been discovered. And so today's African proverb really hits me different. Be like the chameleon, one eye on the future and one eye on the past. I love this proverb. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you again, Simply E. That was so incredible. I truly appreciate you. I was also thinking of how this proverb is actually connected to, Juneteenth, and really how you described it. It's looking back and looking forward. Thank you again. I want to go ahead and invite Steve. Steven, share with us, your interpretation of this proverb, and also share with us where you are joining us from. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Simon, for having me and for giving me this opportunity to share my views. I'm Steven, joining from Kisumu, Kenya, and I'm happy to be here with all of you today. This is a good proverb, and my understanding and interpretation of this proverb is our past prepares us for our future, and it is important to have a reflection of our accomplishments and gauge ourselves for what we want to achieve in the years to come. So my understanding is just being in a state where you are reflecting where you are coming from and challenging yourself to where you want to go to. Thank you, Simon, for having me.
And Simon, we're unable to hear you, so I'm not sure if maybe you have the red bar.
I'm back. Actually,
Okay.
I had to run to the bathroom, so I timed what Steve is going to say with how quickly I can run to the bathroom. And then, and then I texted Chioma so that she's not surprised that I just went missing.
I thought you were trying to believe, Simon. Now what? You couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, I just hoped that you'd see your text message, Chioma. Anyway, thank you, Steve. Thank you for your contribution as well. Now let's welcome William. William, how are you doing today, my brother? And what is it that this proverb reminds you about? Thank you so much. Also share where you're joining us from today.
Hello, Simon. Everything's going well. I appreciate you opening up this platform for everyone to share their perspectives. Today, I'm joining everyone from just northeast of Seattle in Kenmore, Washington. So what this proverb means to me is, writing down your goals. When you keep a journal, you write down goals, and a lot of people have vision boards these days, and sometimes when a few months go by, you look back and you're like, hey, I achieved and knocked out every single one of these goals, and it'll put a smile on your face. So that's kind of the looking at the past part. And then when you look at the future and you have your vision board, some of the cornerstone parts of that vision carry over with you through every season. So in each and every season, you have a new vision, but some of the things that stick with you, that are the cornerstone of your foundation, they follow you from your past into your future. So that's what this proverb means to me.
Thank you so much, William. I truly appreciate you for being here. Let's follow up sometime. It's been a while since, we just checked in, so I can't wait for us to do that. We will continue on to Debbie. Debbie, how are you doing today? I want to pass the mic to you, but quickly, I just want to recognize everyone who is on YouTube with us. I see that Fred is, leaving us with some really incredible comments there. And Quinton and Kay, Lavender, thank you all for being there with us. I see Brother as well, Cheryl as well, and, thank you all for being there. Chioma, make sure when you have a moment towards the end, you just give a shout out to some of your friends who always join us on Wednesdays on YouTube as well. Debbie, I'll pass you the mic.
Greetings and appreciation to all. My name is Debbie Berlin, aka Game Dev Debbie. I'm joining from Maryland near Washington, D.C. For Juneteenth, I attended the National Forum on Reparations, and it was very interesting to explore the difference between sorry versus making amends for wounds inflicted, and to explore how that may be enacted. And when I hear discussion of the reparation, I'm not pronouncing correctly, of our remains of our ancestors, it touches me, because I remember learning about, and pardon me if I'm not pronouncing her name correctly, Sachwe or Sarchi, also known as Sarah Bartum, and her story affected me when I learned how she was, and her body parts were put on display in France, and up until the 60s or 70s, her very personal body parts were on display. And that hurts so much as a woman to know that. And also it makes me think, who were the people going to that museum that were experiencing that in the 60s and 70s? Those people are still alive today. And so the effect on the mindset permeates. And so we have a lot of work to do. When I think of the proverb of looking back and looking forward, I'm reminded of the Sankofa bird who is facing forward but looking back. And I wrote a few words that don't have an answer, but helps us consider the question of where do we go from here? In the fabric of humanity, there is a tear, torn by bigotry, by war, by hate. Has this touched your heart? Can you relate? But where do we go from here? It's important to know and understand the past, but how do we go forward so the pain doesn't cast a shadow into tomorrow's light? How can we go forward? How can we make it right? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, those are critical questions. How can we go forward, and also how can we make it right? Thank you very much. Kay, how are you doing today, and where are you joining us from? Share your interpretation on today's proverb from Madagascar as well. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Kay. I'm on Abenaki land, commonly known as Vermont in USA. I'm pretty sure Congress passed legislation in 1990 that was meant to return artifacts, and I think they modified that legislation to also return remains to indigenous tribes. I don't know what the legal details are on that, if that would also cover African descent. It seems to me it should. But I thought there might be law there, but I know that a lot of people are complaining about how the like Harvards and Smithsonian's, those types of places that still have to return many items and remains to people. It takes a lot to prove that you know you're the right tribe, or you're the right ancestor of these. I know that many people have been complaining about it, but the laws are there. I think maybe they haven't been interpreted very well. So room for improvement. And then I returned back to this proverb, which is, I think, very, very much appropriate. I hear advice to blend in a current moment or code switch with the present moment, possibly for safety and security reasons, and not to stand out and make or not to make waves, recalling sort of another saying. But I feel it's warning not to get lost in the current moment by acknowledging and understanding the past and the history, and also the possibilities that we can move towards to change our current situations and move ourselves out of a possibly dangerous situation. That's how I was hearing this saying. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Kay, for your contribution as well. I want to move now to Bibi. Bibi, how are you? Where are you joining us from, and what are your perspectives on this incredible proverb? For the sake of those who might just be joining us, the proverb we are discussing today is from Madagascar, and it says, like the chameleon, one eye on the future, one eye on the past. And every day we gather here Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we share these African proverbs, dissect them, and learn and gain African wisdom from them. So if this is the kind of space that you enjoy and you value, and you also know other people that should be a part of it, take a moment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share that link with your community, so that when we are live here again, they can also be a part of this beautiful space. So Bibi, nice to see you. Carry on, please.
Thank you, Simon. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Chioma. Hi, Simply. Good to see everyone. And as far as the Proverbs go, I would say this is exactly what our ancestors were talking about. One eye on the past and one eye in the future. This is exactly what they did, and that's what we're doing right now. We're looking at the past as they lived, and when they were talking, they were speaking life into us before we even existed, because they knew we would one day be here. So they passed all those prayers for us, and this is exactly what we're doing now. And us talking here and giving our interpretations and our wisdom, it's actually us passing it on to the future generation to come as well. So I feel like this is exactly what was happening, and what's happening now. It's what will continue to happen, and then that will be when our prayers are answered. And that's part one. And my second part is I've always seen a lot of posts about two pills, the red pill and the blue pill. One takes you back to the past at age 6, or take $10 million, I think, right now with the blue pill. And the question lies if whichever pill you'll take. Mine will always be stay with the present, because if I had gone in my past with the knowledge that I know now to change it, I don't know, because I may not even be here or even have my children or the strength that I have now after all that I've been through. So my answer will always say stay in the present and continue to give hope, because you've already been through it and there's no need to go back there physically. Just go back in your reflection and move forward, and that's the goal. Whatever you do, always move forward. And that's my take for today. Thank you.
Excellent. Whatever you do, always move forward. Thank you so much. Lavender, how are you? Where are you joining us from today? And what are your perspectives on this incredible proverb from Madagascar? I'm sure Lavender is probably running from YouTube to Clubhouse to talk.
You're very right. You're very right. So, my name is Lavender. I'm speaking from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Simon, for having me. My thoughts about today's proverb, learning from your mistakes. I'm trying to find the exact proverb. Like the chameleon, one eye on the future, one eye on the past. My thoughts are that as much as we are growing and moving forward and building, we shouldn't forget our past. Even though we are told not to focus on the past, it's good to remember where you came from. And I think that's how we can help build other people, because as much as we are growing and we are putting more effort to grow, along the way you find people willing to hold your hand, and we shouldn't forget to hold someone else's hand. I can't remember the name, but a few days ago I saw a speech of someone talking about when you press the elevator to go up, when you get up, you shouldn't forget to press the elevator to go back down to the ground floor so that other people can also come up. That's all I have for today.
Thank you, Lavender.
You.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Simon. I'd also like to invite everyone for our Travel in Africa conversations. If you're passionate about Africa and travel, please join us at 11 a.m. PST or Pacific Standard Time and 9 p.m. East African Time. Thank you so much, Simon.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's not a room or a conversation to meet every week, Wednesday, at the times that Lavender has shared. Follow Lavender and you'll be able to see that event on her profile. Now, Stella, how are you doing today, and what are your perspectives on this proverb? Before you share, Stella, I just want to take this moment to let everyone know how proud I am of my team. Stella, Lavender, and Steve are part of my team in Kenya. And, we do a lot of work together beyond the daily African proverbs. We are part of the team that run One Vibe Africa, which is a non-profit organization I founded in 2008, right after the post-election violence in Kenya. And we've served over 800 youths, through our education, music, and art program. We are also the team that is running One Vibe Media, which is, the company that is producing Madagascar Festival here in Seattle, Washington, on August 13th and 14th. We've done that for the last 8 years, So I just want you all to know that I'm very, very proud of you. I want to say it publicly so that you know that you are all amazing. So now, Stella.
Thank you, Simon. We appreciate you too. Thank you so much. And hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. My network keeps
Yeah,
fluctuating.
I hear you so well.
Okay. So today's proverb. This is Stella from Kenya. Today's proverb. It reminds me of two stories. One in the Bible, and one is the very inspiring story that we had yesterday from our guest, of how he grew up, his failures he shared with us, and where he is now. And right now he owns a telecom company. I hope I'm right, Simon.
Yeah, you're right.
And
You're very right. The number of failures that he shared with us, he was so vulnerable. It was quite moving.
yes, and then it also reminds me of Joseph's story in the Bible, how he went through pain growing up, and just how his story was. He was, at some point he was sold, at some point he was whipped, and then he rose up, and at some point he's the one who was saving his family back at home. So just like this chameleon, we have to really take time to learn from the things we go through. Sometimes it's too painful, sometimes it's beautiful, but during the painful moments, we shouldn't complain. We should look at the lesson from it, and we should consider it a pain of purpose, so that in future, when you look back, you are glad that you went through it. Otherwise, I'm happy to be here, and thank you so much.
You're most welcome, Stella. Thank you again for your perspectives. And we want to move on. Dr. Ayoka, I know we gave you time earlier and you spoke about Juneteenth and reparations. But if you have your own interpretation of this proverb, feel free to take a moment and share with us now, please. In case you're far from your mic, I'll move on to Brother Earth and then come back to you later on. Brother Earth, how are you doing? And what are your perspectives on today's proverb?
Peace and love, family. It's Brother Earth. I'm calling from the North Carolina territory, man. And honest to you, Simon, and all the family who brought forth and expounded upon the wisdom of the ancestors. And what I add to the conversation is when I hear the proverb, what it makes me think of is, to have the eye looking backwards at what the ancestors went through and where they intended for us to go is, of course, the future. But what we doing now is so important because we have to have everything in its proper context. And I think that's what the doctor brought forth, depending on context. And, when you really get down or when you really, get beyond the surface level, we are taught that the 13th Amendment or the Emancipation Proclamation is what abolished slavery in actuality, it remixed slavery because it says, slavery is abolished except for if you are convicted of a crime, and making the new slavery as being the prison system. And that's why this country is thriving with the industrial prison complex, because that's how the slavery system is ran. And also having a better view of the context. Nova Drew Ali said, right now the only form of slavery that we suffer from is mental slavery. And if you read my profile, that's why I speak about, I asked the question, what is more important, freedom or reparations? Of course, we want reparations, but we have to have a true understanding or the right context of what freedom is. For the most part, being under in mental slavery so long, the highest form of freedom that we can process is financial freedom. So we feel like if they give us a big pile of money, all our problems is just gonna magically go away and disappear. But in actuality, if they were just to start cutting checks to everybody who they call themselves Black or African American, right? Operating from a place of mental slavery, it's only going to be a stimulus package for the corporations. What they going to do? They're going to buy all the Hennessy, the Nike, the Jordans, the Gucci's, the hair, the pocketbooks. And as a people, it's not making any progress for us. So that's why it's so important for us to have all these things in the proper context so we can understand what did the ancestors really want from us. And really, when they right after they did the Emancipation Proclamation, they put all these during the Reconstruction period, they did all these vagrancy laws where they made it so they could lock people up. They did a paper genocide where they mislabel you and got you to through the census and stuff, where they got you to identify as something you're not and make it so hard to actually trace where you really come from. And all this was done strategically. And, without having all these things in the proper context, again, we think a big pile of money is going to fix the problem, when in actuality, the mind must first be repaired. So we can understand that, if the men, like if a lot of the brothers just took all the money that we spend on shoes, clothes, rims, cars. If we took that money for a year, how many schools and hospitals could we build? If the women took all the money that they spend on lashes, pocketbooks, and we built schools with this, what could we do for ourselves as a people? But again, I could go on and on, but it's just so important that we understand what the ancestors went through and what they intended for us, so we can really achieve freedom as a people. And I come in love and leave in peace, Brother Ernie.
Thank you, Brother Art. We are at the very, very tail end of our time together, and Chioma has to run for another engagement. So, Adeleke, if you can just finish in maybe 30 seconds, it would enable us to hear from Chioma before we wrap up our session today. Go ahead, please.
Oh, greetings. This proverb, I'm really touches me direct. It reminds me first of the concept of Sankofa, and then also too, like the importance of Juneteenth, which just passed. But the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway for me is, as a builder, right? It keeps us in perspective of what is exactly that we need to build. And we can't, if we build based on what our current situation is, and build specifically based on what we're looking at in the moment, in the now, then what we'll get is more of what we have right now. But if we have the capacity to take perspective of the greatness that we've built, excuse me, the greatness that we've built in the past, then we can use that as perspective and as context for building for the future. Then we can build outside of the limitations of the current situation that we're that we're facing. So that's in essence what I take away from the proverb. Ashe.
Ashe, join us again, my brother. Tomorrow we have an incredible session. I'll share more about it after Chioma wraps up the session for us. I'll just share in my closing remarks. Chioma, thank you again for making the time. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Simon. I just feel like everyone said so much. I'll just like pinpoint a couple things that stood out to me. I think simply you said if you're trying to reinvent the wheel, you're losing what's already been discovered. Brother, I like how you mentioned like real freedom, true freedom is like that mental freedom. And Saint Kofa was brought up twice by Debbie and Adeleke. And Stella, I like what you said. You said take time to learn from the things we go through. Sometimes it's painful and sometimes it's beautiful. And then you said a pain of purpose. And I really think that's important sometimes, because I think sometimes we like to close our eyes, or we don't want to look at the past or certain things for what it is because it's painful. And I feel like as people and in the country, particularly this country, like we don't like to be uncomfortable or really know how to like feel things. So when you said that, that really stuck with me as well. And Bibi, I just like what you said when you said the ancestors were speaking life into us before we even existed. And I just thought that was really beautiful. And just reminding us that like what we're doing now and even what we're doing in this space is like this proverb. So yeah, those are just my things, just a few. There are so many though, but those are big. So thank you, Simon, and thank you everybody in this space. Yeah, I'm really grateful always.
Thank you, Chioma. I am also grateful. Chioma, do you have to go right now, or you want to talk about Madaraka for 30 seconds? Because you are in the organizing committee meeting on Wednesday, and I just wanted you to paint a picture for those who have never been there before, like you, who are trying to make it.
Oh my goodness. I do gotta run, but I have never been to Madaraka Festival. But from what I've seen and what I've heard from like Simon and others, it's just a way to really celebrate not just Kenya, but I think Africa and Blackness. It sounds like it's going to be a lot. Like there's going to be vendors, there's going to be performers. I'm definitely speaking into existence that like a lot of things that we're planning really happens and are able to get done. So I'm excited to see what it ends up being. But yeah, there's going to be musicians. There'll probably be poets, different types of things happening.
Thank you, Chioma. Simply, Chioma and I were talking the other day, and for some reason we were envisioning you being at Madaraka too. Anyway, Chioma, thank you. Have a beautiful day. Simply, have a beautiful day. Steve, William, everybody in the Clubhouse space, thank you so much. For everybody. Of course. And also for everybody on YouTube, thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. Peace and love.
African father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okello, live from Seattle, Washington,